Now this one had me looking up the dictionary for the definition of cool to see if it had changed without me knowing it. According to the Oxford Online Dictionary, cool is defined as the quality of being fashionably attractive or impressive. Now, why does this matter? Well, the Saigon neighbourhood of Điền has just been named one of the coolest neighbourhoods in the world by English magazine Time Out. Every year, the travel and entertainment mag compiles a list. Yeah, they're into lists. Of the coolest places in the world, and this year they've identified 38. And Điền, a rather unremarkable knob of land hemmed in by the Saigon River on 3 sides, with the unbearable Hanoi Highway wedging it in on another, came in at an astonishing number 16, ahead of neighbourhoods in New York City, Berlin, Paris, London and LA, among others. Now, according to their recent release announcing this somewhat baffling news, the publication quizzed their global network of on-the-ground experts to find the coolest places on the planet. And once the recommendations were in, Time Out's expert editors narrowed the list down using the insight and expertise of these guys. Điền started out in much the same way as the rest of Saigon did. Swamp and rice paddies, located across the Saigon River from current-day Bintan, near the centre of town, just a short drive over the Saigon Bridge. As the country began to open up in the 90s and even more so in the 2000s, Điền began developing as an expat enclave when BP, British Petroleum, built its compound here for its oil workers, with schools for their kids quickly following. These days, it has the city's largest concentration of international schools. The gated community remains and is still referred to as the BP compound today, where access is restricted and just about every multi-storey villa has a swimming pool and a buoy that comes with it. Or so I've heard. But it wasn't until the early 2010s that Điền began to really take off, shrugging off its reputation as a smelly backwater with slums lining the highway and only worth visiting for Metro, a large mega market that stocked things you couldn't get elsewhere, and the Deck for sunset happy hours, where those with the cash revelled in the bubble life with all its fine accoutrements in hand and on the arm. But fast forward to 2024, and if you throw a leg over a motorbike and cruise about, you'll get a sense of just how things have changed here in Sleepy Hollow. While life for expats still retains all the hallmarks of expat bubbles the region over, like riding motorbikes through the streets with no helmets or license with perceived impunity, a la Bali or Phuket, the neighbourhood has emerged as a culinary destination, like it or not. The boom before the pandemic saw the slums demolished, replaced by apartments and malls, lining Hanoi Highway as far as the eye can see north. And then, during the pandemic, many of the surviving bars, cafes and restaurants that catered for the expat community in other parts of the city, like District 1, made the strategic move to relocate to Sung Tui Street and the small alleyways and streets around it. And by the looks of it, they've hung around, making it the neighbourhood in Saigon, perhaps barring District 1, with probably the highest concentration of F&B outlets catering to expats in the city. That's all well and good, but you're probably watching this from afar, and many of you are watching from the States, and wondering whether you should bother visiting this neck of the swamp on your next visit. Well, our so-called on-the-ground expert who floated Điền to their editor. Floated. Get it? Floated. If you know, you know. Anyway, our expert pumps up the place by suggesting a full day. Yeah, a full day. That starts with coffee, sipping on hot chocolate, perusing local ceramics, eating Japanese Korean fusion pasta, shopping for streetwear, getting a massage, dining at a Michelin selected restaurant, and wrapping it up with a cocktail at a locally owned bar. Now, if you think that's fashionably attractive and/or impressive, then you'll think that's cool, which means you probably should check it out. But just be sure to take your gumboots in the rainy season, and it might just pay to book a grab canoe. And while we're on lists, here's another one that Vietnam's featured on in recent weeks that should get the mouth watering for you guys planning a trip here soon. 6 Vietnamese soups have made it into the top 100 soups in the world list. Yeah, There's a list for that, which was recently released by international food website Taste Atlas. Now, I have no idea about the bona fides of Taste Atlas, a website that bills itself as an encyclopedia of flavors and a world atlas of traditional dishes, local ingredients and authentic flavors. That's a word salad right there if I ever saw one. What's also unclear is whether they too have on-the-ground experts. These things tend to be kept hush-hush, with their fingers on the culinary pulse of dining scenes like Vietnam's. The website does say, however, that places are recommended by food professionals, but who cares? We all love a good list, don't we? Just ask P. Diddy. Too soon? And we all know that if we end up on one, we can flog it on social media till the buffaloes come home, or until someone calls us out on the credibility of the people behind it. Anyway, apparently the rankings are based on verified user ratings, with over 23,000 legitimate ratings recorded out of almost 40,000 ratings as of last September. Seems pretty legit. Hang on a minute, looks like I've opened my big mouth too soon again. I've never seen a bún bò Huế that looks like that. Anyway, pho in general came in at number 29. Probably a bit low for such an iconic dish, don't you think? But that's not to take anything away from the ones who rated ahead of it. I know one person in this household who'll be pretty happy with sinigang, a sour soup that's quintessentially Filipino, coming in ahead of pho at number 15. A rare win for the Pinoys and their much maligned cuisine. Pho bò was the highest of the phos. Anyway, coming in at number 37. One of my go-tos at the moment is Phở Hiền in District 4, a neighbourhood that's probably better known for snails. Yeah, they're big on slow food here and trending ahead of the curve. In fact, the famous snail street, Vinh Can, is just a couple of blocks away. But even better than that is Nhân Nhi's Phở in District 5, an area also better known for other dishes. But wow, she serves up an amazing bowl and it features in this video here. Coming in at number 56 on the list was bún bò Huế, arguably the most popular noodle dish in Saigon, judging by the amount of shops offering it here. Although hailing from the central city of Huế, where it's simply called, well, bún bò. This one is from Phương Linh here in District 7. Other Vietnamese soups to make the list were canh chua cá, sour fish soup, which is much tastier than it sounds, trust me, due to its sweet, spicy and sour flavours that satisfy taste buds in the Mekong Delta, bolstered by tamarind broth with chunks of pineapple, yep, very southern, tomatoes, okra, bean sprouts and fish, often of the snakehead variety. Don't worry, no snakes are hurt in the production of this dish. Northern style pho bò came in at number 86. This style is typically more savoury and salty than the southern version, which tends to be a touch sweeter and topped with a large variety of herbs and drowned in lime juice. By the way, did you know lemons aren't really a thing here? Yeah, anyway, I love both, but given that I've spent all of my time down here in the south, I'll choose a southern variety over a northern one every day of the week. And then somewhat surprisingly, way down the list at number 96 was Phở Gà, chicken noodle soup. This is one of my go-tos that I eat regularly. It's a northern dish and the way they add the finely sliced kaffir lime leaf to the mix amplifies it, dare I say it, to the next level, especially when dunked with some freshly fried puffy bun whey. Any notable omissions? I'd have to say bun can gua. How didn't it slip into the top 100? Let me know what you think should have made the list. And rounding out the lists for this video about lists, it was unintentional, but here we are, is that a number of Vietnamese craft beer brands have taken home awards from this year's Asia Beer Championship held during the two-day BrewAsia conference and trade show in Singapore earlier this month. BrewAsia is probably the biggest of its kind in Asia. If not, it's probably the most comprehensive conference and trade show for the craft beer industry in these parts, with all the brands, big and small, attending from as far as Europe and the UK, the US, Australia, and of course right here in Asia. I was fortunate enough to head along this year, because I happened to co-host it, which was a blast. And I co-hosted it last year in Saigon here as well, which was great. And I'm hoping to get another crack at it next year because it's going to be held in one of my favorite cities in Asia, Bangkok, which should be mega. If you'd like to go, be sure to check out the link I've left below. And if you'd like me to host your event, by the way, get in touch as well. Now, the Vietnam award winners included Rooster Beers, who won a gold for their dark lager, Bridges Brewing Company, who won 2 golds for their American Pale Ale and their Session Fruit Beer, and Masan Master Brewer for their lager. For all the other Vietnam winners, be sure to check down in the list below in the description. Now, Vietnam ranked 4th overall in the medal tally behind China, Hong Kong, and the Philippines, while Vietnam's country champion was Bridges Brewing Co. Well done, guys. And make sure you hit up their tap rooms if you're in Saigon when you get the chance. Make sure you try the Dragon IPA, the award-winning Dragon IPA, with a slice of their great pizza, or a couple of slices at least. It's amazing. It's a great place to hang about and check out the goings-on in District 1 of Saigon. Now, Vietnam's breweries fared pretty well considering it's been a tough few years for beer in Vietnam since the pandemic, with quite a drastic decline in beer sales exacerbated by zero-tolerance blood alcohol level requirements for drivers, meaning it's illegal to drive with any alcohol reading in your system. Along with price hikes in ingredients and rent, this has had a profound effect on drinking behaviour here in Vietnam, which in turn has obviously impacted tap rooms. Although there appears to be some common sense on the horizon, which is great, with a recent article in the local news hinting at a review of the drink driving law, which potentially could bring it in line with most other countries around the world, which would be great because I can't see a problem with a couple of knockoff beers after work before driving home. But let's wait and see. And if you're interested, Far Yeast Brewing Company in Japan won Champion Beer of Asia with its barley wine style beer aged in bourbon barrels for 8 months. Now, perhaps that's a beer you probably should leave the car in the garage for.